theory is not going to work. But this one has the trying to go back to active combat operations is the worst. There's nothing worse than that. And let me show you a couple of the reasons why. He mentioned gas prices there. You see, this is the last 6 months. 6 months ago, gas was $3.35 a gallon. In December, it got down a little bit lower than that. And then it started to rise up. And all this was, you see this big red line here. That's when the war started. That's on the 28th of February. But you see that it was on a pretty good arc above that. As a matter of fact, you don't see a lot of difference from before that all the way up. And that implies that you have a systemic problem here, stuff that it transcends this war. So it's not just the conflict that alone has caused it back. As a matter of fact, we know that really, when you look at the paper price of oil from which the price of gas is derived, it has to do with the physical supply and demand. And as we know now, obviously, the supply is substantially constrained, like to the tune of 12 million barrels per day. And so ordinarily that would have an upward pressure on the price to bring the demand down to meet what the supply has. It's called demand destruction. But so far that hasn't happened because we've let out strategic petroleum reserves and other kinds of storage tanks to mitigate these losses here and to keep the paper price down so people don't get as upset. So the gas price is $1 some odd more than it was here just recently. But you also can see that is partially untrue. It's not really the indicative of where the market is. And if something isn't done quickly to get the flows back open again, then that upward pressure is going to return whether anybody wants it to or not, because there won't be any more, or at least not sufficient amount of SPR gas or oil to put onto the market. And so there's going to be a physical insufficient number. I mean, when it gets to the point where there physically isn't enough gasoline to go around, the only thing the market can do is raise the price. And when there's not enough oil to go around into the refineries to create the gasoline, diesel, and the jet fuel and all that, it can only go up. That is coming. That's already baked in there. So that's also on the motivation. They want to get that off the table very quick. But there's other issues. And we had Mike Adams, aka the Health Ranger, on our show a couple of days ago. Go back and watch that one too. There's also, because of the fertilizer issue that has not gotten out, and a lot of other petrochemicals that are related to making food. He's again showing you how that you've got a break in the natural gas. There's a lot of the processes that turn those things into petrochemicals for fertilizers are also now having a critical loss of capacity. And you see there on the lower left-hand side there, a 10% fertilizer reduction capability on the global market equals a 30%. He said it's a non-linear yield drop. You can get about a 30% less crop yield. Of course, that means heading into the harvest season in this year, you're already baking in a food shortage and therefore a food higher price on top of the problem with the diesel fuel, which of course is also high. And then you see that the problems continue on. And then some of these other countries in that lower right-hand corner there is about the slow motion disaster in 2027, because a lot of this is going to then have to do with the next planting season. And when you just don't have the petroleum inputs of fertilizer, then the crop yields can go down even further. And some countries are already on a knife's edge about having enough to eat. And when you take a 30% hit on crop yields, and possibly more if there's not even enough of the fertilizer, because then they can't, the fertilizer that is available is a lot more expensive, so they can't afford as much of it. So it's a double hit on how little they have, and therefore there's crop. That's into 2027. That's where we are too. That's putting pressure on President Trump right now too. Another thing that he pays a lot of attention to, this is the Consumer Confidence Index here. And you can see it is right now is at the lowest level ever recorded. And the Consumer Confidence Sentiment, a Consumer Sentiment Index is a specific one here. That tells you what the people think about the economy. And when people think the economy is not going good and things are not happening well, what do you think they're going to do when it comes time to go to the voting booths come this November? Are they going to want to go with the side that is having the gas prices are still high if he doesn't get this solved? That there's not enough food to go around, that the food is a lot more expensive? Obviously, it would be catastrophic. So that is putting huge pressure on Trump to get this over with right now, so that he can get some kind of mitigating measures in place and to try and to avoid some of these worst outcomes. Now, I think that he's chasing the wind here, because I think that because of the damage already done, we're just not going to be able to. We had Dr. Chris Martinson on the show the other day, and he says he thinks it's already too late. Even if we had a magic end this past Monday, which didn't happen, he said you could be looking at $200 a barrel oil price in September because of a lot of practical functions, even if it had opened then. So he thinks that's already going to be baked in, which of course is right before the election time. So he doesn't think it's going to be over at all. If you go with keep the blockade in place, though, that's going to push all of that even further to the right, and it's going to make it even more painful when it comes time for the election. But if you go and listen to that other group, I just showed you there, the Atlantic is saying that there's a group of 5 different folks on the inside. They're advising President Trump to do everything Joe Kent talked about on our show earlier today, which is the walk away theory. There's another group that's saying, hey, let's double down. And that was exemplified. I've shown you many people that are on there. General Kellogg, I think we showed you this morning. Certainly Jack Keane, he's always hitting this drum. Lindsey Graham has been always hitting this drum. A number of people. Mark Thiessen is one of the big ones. And for some reason, he's really gained a lot of notoriety here lately.